Explosive show today. Glad you were here. On Tuesday night, Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz out. Then yesterday, we had John Kasich say the exact same thing. No path to the Republican nomination. Kasich dropping out of the Republican race, not punching or elbowing his wife in the face like Ted Cruz did as a sort of goodbye, but still dropping out. That I know for sure, leaving none other than Donald Trump as the only remaining Republican presidential candidate. He did it, as I mentioned, number one, saying there's really no path forward, and number two, without any violent acts committed against his wife. He was mathematically eliminated a long time ago. Recently, Lewis, didn't we calculate that Kasich needed more than double the number of available delegates? I mean, the mathematical path disappeared a while ago.
Yeah, when you need more than 100% of available delegates, things do not look good for you. And so I wish Kasich all the best.
Yes, absolutely. And already being floated as a possible vice presidential running mate for Donald Trump. We'll get to that later in the show. Some interesting developments, though, since Donald Trump has become the presumptive Republican nominee. George W. Bush, former President George W. Bush, commented that he would not be commenting on the on the presidential race in 2016. This has huge significance. It is a comment. When a former president, the day that the lone remaining Republican nominee becomes the presumptive front runner, nobody else is running. When a former president comes out, or his spokesperson, and says, George W. Bush will not be commenting, that is a comment with a lot of meaning, isn't it?
Maybe. It's not like, well, because there's no one in the race. Not that he's been commenting much to this point anyway. Now Donald Trump is unopposed, and so there's no harm in saying anything, right?
Well,
I
he's
mean,
basically saying, I don't like this guy enough to actually try to help him win against the Democratic nominee, against the eventual Democratic nominee. We heard a similar statement from a George H.W. Bush spokesperson who said that George H.W. Bush will also be staying silent this year. This is the first presidential race since George H.W. Bush himself was president where he will not be participating. Now, the statement did say he's 91 years old and retired from politics. So sort of saying maybe this isn't so much about Trump, but it's about his age. But still, the day after Trump is the only remaining candidate, or the day of actually, saying, yeah, this is for the first time in decades, George H.W. Bush is not going to be participating here. And then we've seen a lot of Republicans say they will support Trump, but they will not endorse Trump, which is basically saying, I'll vote for the guy over Bernie or Hillary, but I won't like it.
Yeah. And so I don't know like we've said, Hillary Clinton is pretty far to the right when it comes to Democrats. So, I mean, if you want to, when it comes to the financial issues, Donald Trump is more liberal than her in many cases, right?
On some issues, no doubt
I
about
mean,
it,
taxation,
which is crazy
the
enough.
big banks. There are probably others, but they should be voting for Hillary.
Yeah, I don't know that on taxation Trump is more liberal. I mean, he said his now that we've actually analyzed his tax plan, it would be hugely beneficial to the very, very rich. And while Hillary Clinton no doubt has a sort of corporatist pander or acquiesce to the needs and desires of the very rich element, I think Trump is definitely to the right of her on that. But we've discussed plenty of issues where Trump is to the left of Hillary Clinton. So the micro issue, which we'll get into in a second, is who's willing to be Trump's VP. The slightly less micro issue is stopping Trump. But the macro issue is how on earth has our education and culture failed so badly that there are this many people in the U.S. willing to support Trump for president? That's a much more difficult problem to solve than just stopping Trump now.
All we needed to do was throw someone like Trump at them in the first place, which we haven't done before. So now we've done it, and now we see the true colors of American voters.